the channel. Today is the 2nd of March 2017. So today we have the webbot released and it is titled Watch This Space. Now obviously, as always, I will not read the full report. I'll just take segments, and there's always a lot more information left out. So if you do want to find out what is in the rest of this report, you're going to have to head over to halfpasthuman.com. Support Clif by purchasing a copy. It's only $15. And then obviously it helps you keep right up to date with webbot events and how they tie in inside of our world. So let's get straight into this. It starts off with global gold rush. Within the many areas of the global pop entity, there are numerous sets for gold rush. At first, the temptation is to report on these within the individual subsets based on geographical locations. But the sheer number of the instance sets make this too time consuming. The data has gold rush from the cracked and the tilted subdivisions of California to the beaches of Mexico and to the hills of Central Europe and to the caves of Africa and to the rivers of South America. This area is highlighted as the data sets are so voluminously filled with references to gold and the many ways that humans will be attempted to obtain it. These sets are new to the processing, but are continuations of the meme first seen in 2015. The growth patterns suggest that we are not yet close to the full manifestation of the gold rush language, though it looks as though 2017 is where we get a good start. Pop war shattered. The border countries within EU pop are indicated to be in the big squeeze over most of the rest of 2017, as USA deep state officialdom continues to attempt to put Russia into a box of their own creation. The other part of the squeeze will come from the mass migration invasion over spring and summer. The datasets have 2017 as the year of invasion in Europe. These sets would suggest that more men are going to try to move in to settle, conquer Europe this year than in all the last 10 years combined. These new growth areas are showing that the invasion wave will be accurately described this year as the pop war meme grows to respond to the new wave of invasion. These pop war memes are escalating in number, but with lower emotional impact numbers for each new edition than had been seen in the past months. Stated another way, something of an emotional plateau is being reached relative to the language around migrants and refugees. These sets have the actual breakout of war between populations begin in such a way as to take government of several countries by surprise. The surprise factor is indicated to cause the most problems across the actual battlefield. These sets are filled with supporting sets for walk-in problems, as the government's forces are so clueless that they walk across battle lines in neighbourhoods and start up conflicts. These sets are describing battles that will persist for days and then lulls as the combatants rest and rearm. These sets also have government forces being fools and failing to grasp the real situation until too late. These sets also contain hints of chaos within government control of their forces, such that no one is sure who is in command. Further sets show pitched battles that will involve many wounded and dead. These sets have these battles being interrupted by extra seasonal weather that will catch the combatants by surprise. We have continued growth in longer term value types for the pop war to fade away as the Ice Age impacts are indicated to reduce the prize to nothing. These sets have the invaders being turned back by cold over these next few years, as increasing fierce winters and increasing weather hardships are described as breaking the attention on the goal. Other impacts on pop war include the action against the funding sources, such that personalities are sent hiding and conduits dry up. This phase of pop war is indicated to begin over June, with announcements that will be coincident with very large economic shift within many of the countries affected. These economic shifts are likely laws and policies that will be interdicting money used in pop war. The data has the interdiction of money sets supported by nationwide raids by law enforcement and arrests and incarcerations. A striking amount of new data sets for Pop War also have either directly held supporting sets for gold buy-in or have cross links over to the gold sets in either global pop or market entities. These sets are all referencing on emotional driven buy-in wave that will seemingly burst into flames in several EU countries, then move rapidly to first the UK pop, then over to USA pop. Note that there are many strong supporting sets for gold and women's uprising in Ireland pop. These sets are now also supporting positions for the gold price rise sets within markets entity. The gold buy-in wave sets are primarily centered on Europe. However, the second largest geographical reference is for London. These sets have detailed sets that are forecasting a bank robbery that will be attempted by invading migrants. The robbery is indicated to fail in a spectacular fashion. The detailed sets have the attempted robbery being a spotlight on gold. The data forecast that a run on the bank to buy gold will commence the very next day, but coincidental but linked somehow within the datasets. The rush to buy gold in the northern European states shows the catalyst for UK pop to get emotionally involved with gold. This is forecast as leading to a number of very interesting days of on-the-street interviews with people queuing up to buy gold. Global pop encounters with gold and stumbling over gold and locating gold by accident of nature and locating gold by accident of men. And many other sets are gaining broad support for instances of found gold that will be popping up over the rest of 2017 with something of a crescendo across late September through to October. The encounters with gold sets are quite intriguing as they are suggesting that divers will encounter gold and apparently more than can be lifted by two men and all in a single spot, which is to say in some cave underwater. This cave is not described as though it is associated with an ocean. Rather, we have language for more of an industrial dive. In this set, we have a twist occurring as the divers will take photos and video and cause a sensation when they put it online. But when they return with assistance, all the gold is gone, and then this causes yet more internet furor, much of it into serious deep woo-woo. Breakaway pop. The datasets have missions and logistics that will become visible. The curious part of our breakaway pop set is that we have new growth for infiltration and releases and video and many other sets, indicating that whistleblowers, plural in the datasets, will be pouring out a large amount of captured video. This set is within the longer term data only, as of this processing. This suggests we are looking at a possible manifestation in mid to late 2018. However, there are a number of crosslinks to other sets that suggest that perhaps this may be a case of what we have termed future masking, as we first encountered in 2003, with the Band Ache earthquake and tsunami merging with the data for the Scott Patterson trial, which was also emptied by an earthquake. These sets may actually be showing that an early release of some small level of video or other information, much like the celebrity trial courtroom emptied by an earthquake in the early part of the year, was part of the total earthquake language for that year that included the horrific occurrence at Band Ache in which 300,000 people died, as forecast, and a nation was knocked back to a previous age, the Stone Age. These release of videos and documents about the breakaway pop have little details. Those that do show up at this point are reminiscent of the Band Ache earthquake forecast. We have minimal details that have elements for collapse of bonding agents, and release of video, and short-haul space hops, and profitable mining in space, and watching China. And who are they? These sets are all space and space travel supported sets. The Watching China set has aspect attribute sets for a sneaky watching of the fresh launch of a Chinese rocket. Other details that emerge include mining, but not apparently as we Earthers think of it, as this is mining in space. There are no mention of asteroids or other places in which to mine, so the reference is obscure at this time. Other sets within the breakaway pop entity have descriptors for interdiction, the border crossing, and phone-in orders. All of these sets are within a group that is suggesting that communications between spaceships, secret Earth space program, will be decoded and made available later in 2017. These sets have a communications glitch caused by a solar incident, which will be responsible for some smart Earthers being able to crack the communications channels. These youths are shown as becoming mega internet famous overnight, and then later having issues as the authorities try to track down the source of the decoded communications. Another mega internet famous personality to arise later in 2017 is described in the new datasets as a police officer, maybe female, who is in a jurisdiction that uses dashcams and body cameras. These sets have the officer actually being involved in an accidental encounter, crash, with the breakaway pop. The data has the dashcam as being the saving of the officer, as everyone who hears of the incident will disbelieve it. Then the organisation to which the officer belongs is indicated to stand up and back up the officer by releasing the cam film. These sets again point to giant reactions across the internet that will lead to the officer becoming very sought after personality. Australia Pop. What is it with Australia Pop? Yet more data sets for yet more political bribery scandals are showing up as frying careers and opening jails. This is to surface by the end of July. The corruption scandal sets are gaining new supporting descriptors that include hidden property purchases and bribes from government officialdom. These sets have the disarray in politics to be tightly bound to Britain. It appears that a document which will be mysteriously located in Britain will be pivotal in turning out the government over later half of 2017. Australia Pop dollar will be rising against both the USA dollar and the renminbi. Deutsche Pop. With all the other social chaos rampaging through Europe, the Deutsche Pop sets are now shifting emotional weights away from the active street battles to the political realm and the economic crashing within the EU zone. Deutsche Pop has new growth in political rebellion, bringing out the collisions into public media, some sets for bruised young people in a political arena as a result of fistfights. Media within the globalist control to start referring to potential for a Hitler's return to Germany. This economic chaos includes all levels of the German financial system as well as the industrial base. It is the industrial base being threatened that is indicated to bring out the industrialists to oppose officialdom. The opposition forces are shown as participating within the political process until the unknown incident occurs, likely before the end of May, the result of which is shown as breaking the industrial base away from the political machinery. Increasing UFO sightings over Europe, especially Central and Eastern Europe. The data has bus tours being organised to the sites in Germany where time machines supposedly left evidence. This is shown as something other than an aberration, as there are many longer-term sets in supporting positions. Franco Pop. France is indicated to heat up with drone surveillance that will become a spark among the invading Muslim population. These sets have the invaders being in camps and camping in parks and on streets when drones will be observed watching them. This is indicated to elicit a reaction totally unexpected by any of the participants. The data suggests that the migrant invaders go on a rampage trying to bring down the drone. The data is somewhat confusing as it talks of hundreds of windows being broken by flung debris aimed at the offending drone. This incident is showing up as going viral and producing all sorts of follow-on bad behaviour. Sets are also continuing to provide support and values for our longer-term sets of the Rothschild property being involved as the escape route of the losing migrant mob. The data would seem to be forecasting that some villages and towns that become occupied by invading migrants will react by citizens overthrowing local government in rampant coups that will be felt as shocking to the EU ruling elite. Some of the new sets are suggesting that Franco-pop is going to have a combined problem involving invading migrants and nuclear power plants. That doesn't sound good. Island pop. There are yet many more sets for banks and battles against the women of gold. These sets have references to alternative money and dangerous moves, and pushing on people, and many other sets go into the idea of some form of new money collective that will be causing the banksters to make very bad decisions. These very bad decisions are indicated to have a national follow-on that provides impetus to the anti-bank movements. These sets for women and gold are extensively cross-tied over to the gold buying wave sets, though where they differ is both in emotional tones, anger versus fear, and within the duration of impact values, in that this women and gold and women struggle involving gold sets have values extending out 3 generations. Italy pop. As had been forecast for so long, the Italian banking system is still being presented as the linchpin that causes the derivatives to fall into the crevasse. The data has Northern Italy Bank once headed by a climber who made famous a local climbing area, maybe even named the same, as being the breaking point. These sets have the Italian banking system being so distressed in such a rapid fashion that they race to government for relief. Problem shown in the data is that government will have no funds and be incapable of inducing loans from Germany. This last is indicated to be due to the tight connections between the Italian bank and Deutsche Bank. While a seeming inducement to loan money to failing Italian bank, the picture becomes muddied as the scale of the derivatives monster is discovered. The Italian banking system hidden liability subsets are also supporting sets for lira and return of sovereignty. Both of these sets are cross-linked to the seismic activities sets, with the implication each will be boosted along by the earthquakes. Scandinavia pop. The continuing expression of pop war in Sweden is but one of many points of breakouts of open violence as model spaces moved through the last of winter and into early spring 2017. The pop war sets have the violence being instigated by the invaders. This is going to prove to be a mistake, as the invaders in several areas in Sweden are forecast to be surrounded and set upon by mobs of indigenous population. These sets have the pop war becoming so violent and strife-filled as to disrupt areas of the community for weeks. It is at this point that the officialdom, in spite of their attempts to calm the warring factions, will have to order out military forces. These sets are also indicating that a military base itself will become attacked and embroiled in the pop war confrontations over spring in the Northern Hemisphere. South America pop. There are many sets for UFO and engagement with the military fighters. These sets have at least one country in South America pop deciding that they needed to do something in reaction to the ejection of material from the UFO. These sets suggest that the military fighter jets will not be able to do more than chase the UFO. However, the population is indicated to be concerned about the material being ejected and is shown as being supportive of the government actions against the UFO releases of a material. This material is also indicated to bring foreigners of many types to the area to investigate. Markets. The silver reaction to the currency crisis shows up as the manipulation is described as slips from their grasp. They get another grip on it, but their base is now much higher and slippery, which requires lots more energy to maintain, such that they keep losing control thereafter in little bursts. The continued growth of the currency crisis sets has the price for Bitcoin set a new all-time highs frequently throughout 2017. The datasets have the reductions in price as part of Bitcoin's consolidation pattern being reduced as we go forward. This may well mean that our expected $500 drop will be far less. The data has the pattern of Bitcoin prices being less deep and less wide on each new iteration, though at least to September of this year. Prices will still be escalating rapidly in all paper currencies. Other aspect sets that are occurring in supporting positions for the Bitcoin set include descriptors for boom and hiring and build out infrastructure and escalating involvement. These sets are all active over this and next year. These sets have Bitcoin becoming something of an industry in the sense of the number of people becoming involved in some part of the use structures. Many of the pop war sets are also extensively tied to gold via crosslinks. These crosslinks bring up supporting sets that are forecasting that a swelling of the demand and the usage of gold and silver as money will be occurring across Europe due to the pop wars and the disruptions of the larger European economy. The datasets have the rebellion by the EU pop overpaying invaders is indicated to have near instant ramifications for the ruling elite in Europe as the population decides to go on tax holidays. These sets are indicated to have a very large impact on the demand and thus the prices of the silver and gold, even within the controlled markets for such within the European financial system. These sets are forecasting that the silver and gold demand will be a leading indicator of a very large shift at the generational level. These sets are forecasting that the younger generations within the Eurozone are going to see corruption and breakdown of social contract. Thus the data is forecasting that the younger generations are going to seek safety within physical gold and silver. These sets are also replicated within the Bitcoin sets. Here though, there are much higher emotional support for speculation and desire for gain, while in the gold and silver sets, the data has the younger generations are to be seeking safety over long time. The data has the interest rates rise being in singular point of fixation for global markets as the trade destruction continues. However, the geographic point of fixation still shows as Italy, as the euro is indicated to be pressured. These sets are describing pressured with language about new currencies and resumption of old currencies. There are sets of breaking off from the euro and refunding banks with new currencies. A very interesting item within these sets has to do with the actual printing of notes. These sets are suggesting that a counterwave of sorts to the cashless society meme shows up as countries print currencies. As they abandon the euro, they are forced by the need to establish confidence to avoid digital and flood the system with cash. New supporting sets are showing contamination between foreign-owned real estate and the commercial real estate market, holding off a number of firms. The data has the breakdown of the markets reaching a point where there are pockets of attempted panic selling of plush real estate holdings. Note that these are shown as non-occupied and are money holders. The datasets have the attempted panic selling reaching a frenzy in some countries as their populations try desperately to sell properties in other countries. Well, that sounds exactly like the Chinese are selling off their cash positions in other countries. And that's obviously been covered a lot as well through the webbot, and I believe it was the Vancouver area. The datasets have markets moving into currency problems that rises to dominance in the language from the last part of April onward. These sets have April and May being the ramp up in currency crisis language that then dominates market problems over the rest of the year. The data for the Bitcoin is closely tied in its growth patterns to the currency's problems that are described as globally affecting populations. These sets have Bitcoin being kicked upward in currency prices as the sovereign currencies are shown as falling against each other and gold and silver. The most dramatic rise in price for Bitcoin shows as developing over March and progressing through the chaos of the following months. There are sets for a slowdown in rate of growth over summer up until the point of increasing earthquakes. These earthquake sets are indicated to be participants in social chaos in which Bitcoin is described as coming to the rescue as other systems will have broken down, which basically sounds like the derivative market could be blowing up in July, August, September. As these sets are growing, the data has the hyperinflation being noticeable within the real economy. These sets are showing that the economic impacts of the currency crisis will be pressuring both corporations and banks into moving into Bitcoin. The officialdom sets are showing as wailing, crying, freaking out, bad behavior in public, and many other sets indicating a very negative emotional reaction. It is at this point that we have the linguistic temporal markers for the pending release of Antarctica information that will be ahead of the disclosure of frozen technologies by mere months. These linguistic temporal markers are suggesting that the central bankers will be both bragging and begging. They will be both blowing smoke about their accomplishments and shouting about the danger they face. Many of these sets have the central bankers becoming fools and charlatans in the eyes of the public. Over 2017 through to 2019, these political structures have an internal war are shown as impacting economic health globally by currency crisis over 2017, but less so over 2018, with a notable increase in global economic activities from mid-2018 onward. As had been seen and discussed in previous auto reports, the market's entity continues grow sets for rising dollar, even as Bitcoin, gold, silver are also rising. The confluence continues for at least 2017 and into the first quarter of 2018. The dollar rise sets are now showing that the unleashing of USA pop low-level economic activities will be increasing speed of circulating currency in USA pop, and that this will foster an emotional draw or attraction to the USA dollar for the rest of the year over other currencies. The data has the notable exception to the emotional attraction of the USA dollar being Greek drachma and Italian lira. These sets would seem to be arguing that rival currencies will be attracting global capital over late 2017 into 2018, as there will be a new kid on the block and will have shining and bright futures, at least at the attracting capital level. So guys, sounds exactly like a gold currency is coming for 2018, as the economists said. Other sets speaking to new alliances are bringing in new aspect attribute sets or detailed layers for joint purchases of vast areas of farmland, and foreign groups that will be shopping, buying old industrial sites. There are specific sets going to the idea that multinational corporations will be seeking ways to convert their paper assets into real stuff. These sets have specific geographical focus on North America, including USA, Mexico, and then Canada. But there are some geographical sets for the West Coast and Eastern Canada. These sets are presenting the idea that the just-in-time supply system concept that facilitates and lubricates the concept of globalism is crumbling to the point that new investments will be made in large amounts into building out local supply chains and thus also local manufacturing. Make America great. During the chaos period of March through May, the data accrues for Bitcoin to become more costly than gold. As this transition takes place, the datasets have it being a temporal marker for many other sets including silver and precious technologies from Antarctica. These sets have a strange occurrence developing as nations and central banks begin to buy Bitcoin. These sets are providing the propellant for the rush through 1448 in US dollar terms. These new data sets have the chaos period of these next few months as being pivotal for both Bitcoin and silver. These sets are arguing for the secret hyperinflation to be creeping out. As a temporal marker, these sets are going to the idea that silver will be the shining light as the move into hyperinflation shows in the public consciousness. These sets have silver rising faster in US dollars than either gold or Bitcoin. This is merely speaking to the rate of increase. and not its price during that rise. As the gold falls behind Bitcoin forecast manifests, it is also a temporal marker for new ideas from Antarctica. The temporal marker of the crossover has been within our datasets for over a year and has had many secrets revealed sets attached to its growth. These secrets revealed sets are forecasting that media will be focusing on the big names who will be absent and running as these next months unfold. As model spaces moved through 2017 and into early 2018, the datasets have the new technologies, hyper-technologies, being moved into production in a number of countries. These sets are also presenting forecasts for emerging new nations that will have clean currencies and improved outlooks. Some of these sets are very extensively cross-linked over to the Bitcoin and gold. There are sets for small nations that will adopt Bitcoin and gold as circulating money, and in so doing, create a jumpstart conditions for their economies and, more importantly, for their younger generations of workers. These sets have very large increases in emotional sums for optimism and future outlook, both of which are going to contribute to local economic booms. There are supporting sets for new nations and new national currencies that are including cryptocurrencies. These sets accrue as model spaces moved into June. There is a small flurry of growth in Bitcoin as national money sets, then a lull through about a month, then again larger amount of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency language that joins these sets from mid-July through to November. Other sets for Bitcoin are showing that our previously discussed Bitcoin price patterns are being supported by the pending banking crisis. The Bitcoin prices and the discussed pattern will be pressured upward by the debt defaults that will be occurring in the interbank lending system. There are sets that are suggesting that a lockup among credit and loan guarantees that will spread to the banks. These sets are in supporting positions within the regional bank crisis sets that will be affecting global pop over this year, with a kickoff in March through to May, depending on location. The war on cash language is dropping off in its emotional sums, and the data growth patterns are favouring an interpretation of a fading idea as the backlash into cash starts to appear in small countries and across regions of the globe. The data has the backlash putting more emotional value into cash, precious metals and Bitcoin being a reaction to avoid within the populations. The data has the central bankers discussing this backlash and how to control the increasing emotional attachment to all forms of physical money. And guys, that is all that I have time to cover, and unfortunately I've never made it into the Space Goat farts or the American entities or the whole planet changing sets, so there is still heaps left inside of this report, which you really should go get yourself a copy if you found that very informative. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If it allows you, please share this. And if you want to go one step further guys, you can also support this channel via one of the options inside of the description bar. Thank you so much for your support, and I will see you on the next video.